Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I'm with you recording this on Sunday, May 17th in the year 2026 in a beautiful twilight in Escazú, Costa Rica. And I am here to talk to you about all things the week ahead. And as today is the day after the new moon, and if you listened to me last week, you will know that we are in a big Gemini vibe in the current days ahead. And right now we are in a big Gemini vibe because Mercury and the moon have moved into Gemini, joining Venus and Uranus there. Now, this isn't going to last very long because three planets change signs this week, and one of them is Venus, and she is leaving tomorrow night, 9:05 p.m. for the sign of Cancer, and that is Eastern time. So Venus in Cancer is a lot softer and less flirty and less flighty than Venus in Gemini. Right now she's that revolving door at the very end of the sign. And if you're having those last flirtations before you take something emotionally seriously, then that's the ends of Venus in Gemini. And tomorrow evening, Eastern time, when she goes into the sign of Cancer, she will be joined by the moon about 40 minutes later. And the moon will enter Cancer. I know it flew through Gemini, didn't it? It went in yesterday, actually really last night, and it's barely spending 48 hours there before it heads on into the sign of Cancer tomorrow. Gemini is a sign that planets tend to move quickly through, such as Mercury, such as the moon. And they don't stay long, and they do the work of the Gemini energy, and then they move on over to Cancer. And Cancer is softer, gentler, sweeter, more patient, more nurturing for sure. And so when the moon moves into Cancer with Venus tomorrow, this is actually a very lovely, lovely experience. It means the two goddesses are together, and they are going to conjunct shortly thereafter. So Venus will move in at 9:05 p.m. Eastern time, and then the moon will move in at 9:46 p.m. Eastern time, and then they conjunct 4 minutes later at 9:50 p.m. Isn't that nice? And so, isn't that nice? So this is a beautiful aspect. This is really lovely in the sign of Cancer, and they will both be at the 0 degree point of the sign. Now we know that 0 degrees of the cardinal axis was where we were with Saturn and Neptune back on February 20th. And so they are not in Aries, but they are on that cardinal axis point. So they may have something to say to us about February, and they may have something to say to us about Saturn, Neptune. So it will be subtle, more than likely. And so just pay close attention to any news that surfaces tomorrow, maybe more in the evening, maybe more Tuesday morning, about things that occurred back at the end of February. Look at the news, look at where things are, and see where this could possibly be surfacing again, bubbling up from the collective unconscious. And in the meantime, personally, I like this very much. This is a very lovely, supportive, nurturing aspect to have happening. And it isn't very often that Venus steps into Cancer. She only does this once a year, and she's not retrograding in Cancer. So she's stepping into Cancer, and then she's stepping in with the moon, which is really lovely. And what's more about Venus in Cancer, she is going to meet up with Jupiter in Cancer. Again, not right now, but in a few weeks. And she met with Jupiter in Cancer a year ago when Jupiter entered Cancer just about a year ago or so. Now, this is very interesting because Jupiter spends a year in a sign, and the likelihood that one of the inner planets, other than the sun maybe, is going to be sitting with Jupiter in that sign. That's a gecko. Sitting with Jupiter again 2 years in a row is very unusual because when Jupiter enters, it's going to leave in a year. And so getting one of those very erratic cycles to join Jupiter for a second time within a year is very, very interesting and very supportive and kind of beautiful. So I like this. I like that Venus is having these moments, entering with the moon and probably close to exiting with Jupiter. And we'll talk about that more when they come together again. But I think it's a beautiful indication of this Venus in Cancer cycle. Venus goes into Cancer every year. Like I said, she's not going retrograde. She'll be retrograde later this year, but that's in Scorpio. But she's really sort of feathering the nest there with the moon, and then eventually with Jupiter, and this is very sweet. Venus will not be in Cancer when the Sun comes into Cancer. The Sun's going to go into Gemini this week on Wednesday, and we'll probably have Venus finish with Cancer before the Sun goes in there. Anyway, they won't conjunct in Cancer. So I think this is, getting back to Venus and the moon, this is really very sweet. So what can you do with this? You can create something lovely. You can open the door to friendships. You can welcome people in a very nurturing or hospitable way. You can bring people in for dinner. You have a little dinner party. You can call a friend you haven't spoken to in a long time, or call a friend you talk to all the time, and just be in a wonderful, outreach, supportive, lovely, cozy way. Make some nice warm meal at your house, even if it's just for you and or your family or just you. It's a really good time to do something very lovely and supportive of self and others. So this is very sweet, and I like this very much, and it's a good time to extend a hand. Even if you want to help or support someone, if someone's going through a rough time, you can lend a hand or be a friend. Lend an ear, because remember, Mercury is in Gemini. Now that Mercury's in Gemini as of this morning, maybe you need to lend an ear. But also, it's a good time to gather with friends. Now, I'm a little early on this, but today we went to the Feria in Santa Ana. I normally go yesterday in Escazú on Saturdays, but I couldn't go yesterday. And so we all went out, and then we went out to the Feria, which was very crowded and very hot. And then we went to eat something in a very lovely little place for brunch. And it was a lot of fun, and it was great, and it was wonderful spending time, and it's sort of a day in advance, but the vibe is there, the energy is there, and that was really lovely. And one of the reasons the main reason I could not go to Feria yesterday was that I was in a breathwork session with my friend Juana, and this is the second time I've done breathwork with her. And if you've never done breathwork, I highly recommend it, and it's really a wonderful tool to release the subconscious patterns. And stuff comes up you could do it a half an hour breath. Last time I did an hour, yesterday I did 90 minutes, which was wonderful, and it goes so quickly. And this is not a strenuous breath work that I'm doing with her. And it was just so helpful, and all sorts of stuff just cleared from my subconscious. And, with a facilitator, you have an integration period. You talk, you journal, you express what you learned, what you felt, what got cleared. And it's just so much more, I think, rewarding than just sitting in therapy and talking with someone week after week or whenever, month after month, just talking. Talking helps, but I think the real work is in the body, and the breath is the most basic thing we can have. It is something we have to do for life. It's the first thing we do. When we arrive on this earth, we breathe. It is the last thing we do before we end our life. We breathe. We take our last breath. And so many traditions, indigenous traditions and healing traditions and, spiritual traditions, all include the breath some way. And I think it's really important. And it's just amazing. I actually had a conversation with another healer, one of my colleagues and friends, on Monday of last week about how great breathwork is. And I experienced breathwork with her back in New York City a bunch of years ago. And that was a more holotropic breathwork where there's loud music and it's kind of thumping and you're breathing above and beyond it and you're transcending it, and it's fast and deep and heavy. This is deep too. What I did yesterday was deep. But anyway, I highly recommend breathwork, and it just is so clarifying. So a good thing to do when we're coming into Gemini season, and that begins this Wednesday, the 20th, if you can believe it. It's the 20th of May, and that would be the sun entering Gemini 8:37 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. And you know that we have planets in Gemini, namely Uranus, very early in Gemini. And so that means that as soon as the sun enters Gemini, it steps forward and steps on Uranus, or steps with Uranus. So while the sun enters Gemini on Wednesday, by the time we get to Friday the 22nd, which is at 10:26 a.m., the sun will conjunct Uranus. So they are very close together already, and you'll start to feel that really revving up on Wednesday. And Sun Uranus is enlightening, surprising. It can bring you some brilliant ideas, and the sun's sort of illumination can really open up Uranus's brilliant ideas. So you can hopefully use this energy this week to go into some of your genius, your brilliance, to push the creativity a little bit. And I think this is a good week to get creative because, Venus goes into Cancer, and then at the same time as the moon, and then, Sun and Uranus. This is very creative energy. This is really supporting the creative process, and really having a breakthrough on Friday. That would be an amazing thing. So whatever you're working towards, and there's always an element of creativity in the work and the life we live. I think that this would be a great time to sort of push the envelope a little bit to move the creative energy. And that's a really wonderful aspect for doing that, especially since it's going to be in the morning on Friday. And depending on where you are in the world, if you're in Paris, it's going to be much later in the day. And so maybe there'll be a surprise party that night. I'm just making it up, right? So it's really something unique, because Uranus is always unique, and it's special because the sun only conjuncts Uranus once a year. So this is good. This is really good creative opening energy, and it brings us to a new place where we've been, from where we've been. We've been in Taurus for the last 4 weeks, and now we're going into Gemini, which is, for the sun, a little more sparkly, okay? And we are really working with this energy very quickly, when Gemini is a quick sign and wants things immediately. And so expect ideas to come. Expect to have your notebook with you, or type notes into your phone, because this is the speed at which this information is going to be coming to us. And Mercury is already there. We know Mercury is also going to be busy this week. It's going to sextile Neptune on Tuesday, the 19th, the day after tomorrow. And then by the evening, it's going to trine Pluto. So it's in that special place where it's touching all the outer planets and having some real dialogue with them. So obviously it just talked to Uranus because it stepped into Gemini and then stepped with Uranus, just the way the sun will do this week. And then it will sextile Neptune, trine Pluto. These are all really good supportive energies for Mercury and his ideas. So this is really positive. So I think we've got some positive energy this week. We've got 3 planets changing signs. Tomorrow, 2 of them will change signs. One of them is obviously Venus, as I've already mentioned. And then there's Mars. Mars is going to enter Taurus at 6:25 p.m. tomorrow night, Eastern Time. Mars does not love being in Taurus. It is really moving out of Aries, its favorite sign, and then moving into this new place, which is much slower for Mars. And it may actually help ground all of the energy that's flying around with all this Gemini energy we've got over these next days. So I think I'm going to think of it as a positive, a grounding place for all of this energy that's creative, that's fast, that's sparkly, that's lightning, that's genius, brilliance, innovative, quirky, and different. And Mars can help sort of keep things moving and keep things steady, because once the sun leaves and goes into Gemini, the sun won't be really grounding us anymore. And Mars can step in and do that. They're going to sort of overlap by about a day and a half, as Mars will come into Taurus and the sun will leave a day and a half later. So this is good. I think that in this case, we need Mars to ground us. We need Mars to really be in a place of earthiness. And that's okay, because right now at this time of the year, we don't get a lot of earthiness anymore. We start going into the air and the water. And something earthy could be really of benefit in these next weeks, because of, everything else is just sort of hanging in fire and air and water and not grounded. So I like a little earth in the sky. I always like a balance of all the planets in all the elements, It's good to have the four elements working together. Because when there's no earth, we sort of lose the grounded feeling, but also, earth is money. Maybe the money's not flowing, right? We don't want that. We want some money. We want money to be flowing. Things could be flowing. The words and the ideas could be flowing, but no money's coming out of it. So I feel like there always needs to be a balance. And I'm not talking about the South Node in Virgo. It's not that. There needs to be a balance of where we're doing something creative and innovative, but then there's a practical use to it. It's not good to have all sorts of wild ideas and then go, I don't know what to do with it. That's not practical. Then you throw it out. So I think it has to land somewhere. So ideas can be turned into money when we do have some earth in the sky. And so it's going to be a little rare for a while because we don't have things in earth signs anymore. So, and if you did not listen to my lecture about 2026, then I suggest you go to my website and look for the 2026 lecture. Go to book now or book online at thegoldenastrologer.com, and you can find my lecture. It's only $55 because that was the lecture I gave about where we were going and how we were leaving earth and water and how we're going into fire and air. So these things need someplace to land. Okay, so in the meantime, we have Venus. Then once she steps into Cancer, now she's in the cardinal territory, and she's going to talk to Neptune, who's in Aries, also in a cardinal sign, and that's going to be Thursday. So Thursday, Venus will square Neptune, and Venus in Cancer will square Neptune in Aries, and they will create something beautiful. It's a square, yes. So do be careful in your relationships. Do be careful who you lend money to. Do be careful with your wallet when you're in a crowd, okay? Especially if you're going on vacation in Europe. Make sure that your wallet is in a safe place, and if you get into crowded trains, no one's reaching in and taking things from you. So be careful. And, things are slippery when Neptune and Venus are involved in a challenging relationship, okay? Talk to your friends. Again, be supportive. Venus is in Cancer, and it can be deeply creative. It can bring you a beautiful dream. It can bring you a beautiful inspiration. It's a great time to decorate your house. But also watch the money. Watch that the money just doesn't slip out of your hands because you're decorating your home. And you spend a little more than you thought you were going to because Venus is squaring Neptune and it just sort of slipped out of your hands. So again, these are things, just little cautionary tales. I like that Venus and Mars are going to speak to each other sweetly on Tuesday the 19th. They are going to have a sextile from Taurus to, Mars and Taurus to Venus in Cancer. And so since they both change signs tomorrow, they're going to speak sweetly on Tuesday. And they are going to give us some nice support in the relationship department. So Venus is pretty busy this week. She's changing signs. She's meeting with the moon right away. She's sweet talking Mars. Maybe there's someone in your life you need to sweet talk a little bit. Maybe it's your spouse, your partner, and sweet talk them into spending the money to redecorate the house. And that's what happens on Thursday when Venus squares Neptune. But this is all pretty positive. And there's a little bit of static and electricity on Friday when the sun meets Uranus, but it's okay. Like I said, use it. If you direct the energy is yours to use. And that's why we do this on the Golden Astrologer podcast and other astrology podcasts. The energy is there for you to use. And if you use it to direct it towards what you wish for and you desire and what you want to create, then, the energy is yours. You create what you want from it, okay? Now, if you want to have a wonderful experience of these energies and not be in a staticky place, then keep yourself in a very grounded place, do some breath work, and use the energy wisely and make choices when there are choice points. Make choices that don't give you agita, right? If I take this, there may be agita in a couple of different choices, but try to give yourself the best experience of this energy. And I say that especially because next week is going to get a little complicated. Next week is going to get complicated. And while I am definitely staying with this week, and we will talk next Sunday about next week, next week is going to bring us a Mars square Pluto and a Venus square Saturn. So those are tougher. Those are relationship oriented. They are often patterns that we have. If you're a Venus Saturn person or you are a Mars Pluto person, you may find that those energies really get under your skin. And you have to work with them and navigate them. And I'm giving you a little taste of what's coming next week because I want you to be aware. If you are in the United States and celebrating Memorial Day, next weekend is Memorial Day weekend. It is one of those weekends where I say, Mars square Pluto, please watch where you're driving to, how you are driving, the people on the road, etc. Please, please be careful and don't drive angry. And if you're going on vacation, that looks like traffic jams to me. And it could be really irritating traffic jams. So, yeah. So I'm just giving you the heads up for Memorial Day weekend because maybe you won't catch my podcast in the United States next weekend because it's Memorial Day weekend and you're away. But I will tell you that Sunday the 24th, we are going to have a lovely Sun sextile Neptune, Sun from Gemini to Neptune in Aries. And again, now that we're seeing planets enter signs, like I said, 3 planets are changing signs this week, Mars and Venus and the Sun. And those are all the personal, intimate relationship planets. They're not the outer planet. We've had enough outer planet cycles change, but because the outer planet cycles change, as soon as planets that move faster, like the Sun and Venus and Mars, when those planets move faster and move into a new sign as they are this week, they are inevitably talking to the outer planets that have just moved into these new signs. So they're talking to Saturn, they're talking to Neptune, they're talking to Uranus and Pluto. And so this is every time now that we go, like we went into Taurus season and the Sun was going to square Pluto right away because Pluto's in Aquarius, but it's early Aquarius. So now the Sun goes into Gemini and then immediately conjuncts Uranus. So as the seasons are coming, like, oh yeah, it's Gemini season. Oh, it's Taurus season. Oh, it'll be Cancer season. Planets are coming in and greeting the outer planets right away. So this is the way this cycle is going to, we're going to experience this all year, because the outer planets do not move quickly. And so each time it becomes, your birthday season, if you're a Libra or a Virgo or something, every month that Sun moves into a new sign, it's going to go right into relationships with the outer planets. So the example here is Gemini. Sun's going to go into Gemini. It's going to immediately have something to do with Uranus, and then it's going to shortly thereafter have something to do with Neptune, and then it's going to trine Pluto shortly thereafter, next Tuesday, the 26th. So this is what I mean. We don't get a breather when the new season starts, and this is the way it's going to be at each juncture of the new zodiac sign season. Now, I don't just mean summer is coming and there's going to be that too. The sun will go into Cancer, and then it's going to start getting into Neptune and Saturn and all that business, because Cancer and Aries are challenged to one another. So I want you to be aware of this, because once we get into Sun to Gemini, then, like I said, it's in a relationship with the other planets. They are good relationships. A sextile to Neptune, a trine to Pluto. These are good things, but they are bigger energies. And so we are being asked to use this energy wisely and efficiently and creatively. And this is the thing. All the outer planets have changed signs. It's not like we had Pluto at the end of Capricorn. We had Uranus somewhere in the middle of Taurus, and Neptune somewhere in the middle of Pisces, or, they were scattered all over, and they weren't really collectively in conversation. They are collectively in conversation now. And when we were at brunch today, Alejandro was asking me about, tell us, what's the astrological climate about? And I was explaining that because everything's new, we're in this new paradigm, and we're just getting a taste of what it's all about. So each time the inner planets make relationships, each time they step into a new sign, they're going to get involved with the outer planets. And this week, we have 3 of those things happening. So this is a very busy energy. And eventually, like I mentioned, once we get to July, we're going to have that relationship of the 5-pointed star and all of the outer planets in conversation with each other smoothly, and then Jupiter involved too, smoothly for the most part. But this is an enormous amount of energy operating together. It's not like they're not talking to each other. They are. And so when the sun steps in and goes into Gemini, now it's talking to everybody. Now it's talking to Uranus and Neptune and Pluto and eventually Saturn. And they're in dialogue. It's an immediate dialogue with 3 outer planets, which are always transcendental. So this is fascinating, because we are being asked to transcend our previous lives. And if you don't feel like your life is changing and you aren't doing things to help your life change, then you're going to be scratching your head during these times. But I don't think anybody is experiencing that. I think that we are just being brought along to a new place in our lives. And the best thing to have is an intention. The best thing to have for yourself is set an intention, a big intention, a little intention, many intentions. For example, when I went to breathwork yesterday, I had a different intention than I did 3 weeks ago when I went to see her. And then she was telling me she's working with her husband, and they're doing a 21-day breathwork challenge, and he's doing 15 minutes every day for 21 days, which is exciting. But his intention is the same for those 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks, those 21 days, he's going to have the same intention, which, I mean, for 15 minutes, maybe I would too. But setting an intention, and it's the bigger intention. It's not just, I want to make it to payday. It's a smaller intention. It's, I want to create abundance in my life. And so for me yesterday, my intention was wholeness, and wholeness that eventually leads to freedom, because once you're whole, you don't need anything. It's not that need. It's, I've got everything I need. I'm supported by the universe. And stepping into wholeness means you're trusting on a greater level as well. You have faith, and that gives you freedom. So the bigger picture is to set an intention now. And it's so wise to do that. It's so wise to set intention. An overarching larger story is happening, and when you set intention for that, you're going to be asking the universe to support you in it, but you're also working with this new energy of the outer planets that are going to be supportive. Don't waste this time. This is a phenomenal time. They don't talk to each other like this, the outer planets. This is unheard of. And I know I'm seeing a lot on the social media and stuff. The outer planets are talking in a way that we haven't seen in 2,000 years. I don't know. I didn't track it that much. I don't know. But they are in rhythm, in a very smooth rhythm with each other. You know, Uranus is about change. They all create transcendental changes, and they all ask us to transcend the previous life. But Uranus does it in a more electric way, a wake up call, and an awakening. It's the great awakener. It shakes you out of complacency, and Uranus, will bring you new thoughts and new ideas and stuff because it's in Gemini. Neptune does this in a very subtle background, sensitive, visionary way, intuitive, psychic way. It's not something that's just going to smack you upside the head. It's going to give you expansion and openness in a way that you can draw from your creativity and your intuition, and you sort of to pay attention how you're feeling, your feelings. Uranus is a little more intellectual. Pluto is much more deep and resonant and visceral. Neptune isn't necessarily visceral. Pluto is like, I feel that that's a visceral thing. And when we have that Mars Pluto in the following week, that'll be more visceral. And Pluto asks us to do excavation out of the basement and to go into the depths of our subconscious and pull it all out, pull out the stuff that's, the obstacles that are in the way. And so they are three different energies, all transcendental, but they are there to support us. Remember, they are there to support us. They're not there to make our lives miserable. But they will add some humility to your life if you don't have that. If you aren't someone who's got, and I don't mean humble and meager and small. I don't mean making yourself small. I mean, don't be arrogant, because then you get slapped upside the head, especially by Saturn. Teaches you a lesson. But to think big, feel big, want to be big in the world without arrogance, without stepping on other people, with an openness and a desire to bring something to the world from that. Like, I'm asking for my life to get bigger so I can bring something to the world. That kind of presence, so that you can give it back. So you can give something back to the world, right? And those are the things we want to be paying attention to now. Expanding your life, creating an intention, moving into that intention, what needs to happen for you to go into that intention. In the meantime, I have announced a class which I put out on my mailing list last Monday called Resplendent Becoming, and I didn't give a lot of details. I'll be sending out another email, but if you're interested, it is going to be an 8-week program. Go to my website, thegoldenastrologer.com, and you can read astrologers' thoughts, and if you're not on my mailing list, you can read about it there. My experience that caused me to create this 8-week class, and I'm going to be sending more information out about it. And if you have not signed up for my mailing list, I invite you to do so. Just go to my website, and a little box will pop up, and you can go to Astrologer's Thoughts and put your email in, and you'll be getting the other emails about Resplendent Becoming. And if you are interested, if it sounds intriguing, you can always write to me about it and ask more questions. I will be sending out more information within the next day or so. My email is info@thegoldenastrologer.com or deb@debmcbride.com. They go to the same place. And if you would like a session with me, you can go to my website, thegoldenastrologer.com, click book online, and choose a lovely astrology session, a peaceful, beautiful, clearing Reiki session, or maybe you want to join me in expansion mentoring, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And all of this is available on my website, and you just have to make a choice. I thank you so much for listening. I wish you a beautiful week ahead as we move through these interesting shifts and changes in the astrology world. And thank you. Gratitude to all. A beautiful, blessed week. And I will see you on the internet.